Welcome everybody to Tino's Time Wrestling. And on this episode, we're gonna go over a pre-show analysis for Hell in the Cell, and we're gonna talk about everything that went down last night on Smackdown. But before that, you might be thinking, who's this good-looking guy sitting next to me and that's on the Zoom with me? It's my friend Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to it. Discuss some Hell in the Cell.
Yeah, Hell in the Cell, man. I love this paper. I love the Hell in the Cell matches. I actually last night I went back and watched the Shawn Michaels versus Triple H match at Bad Blood from like
Kane's
2004.
debut.
Yeah, that match was awesome. I fell asleep. I'll have to rewatch it later, but that match was awesome. But before we get into everything, thank you for coming on. And the first thing I wanted to talk about, let's talk about everything that happened last night on SmackDown. I don't want to get like into everything, but let's talk about how they moved the Hell in the Cell match to Friday. How did you feel about them moving the match to SmackDown and having it on Friday instead of this Sunday?
I was surprised. I saw the tweet that Rey Mysterio and Roman Reigns responded back the day before on Thursday about them moving the fight or the Hell in the Cell match to SmackDown, and I sent you the tweet. I was like, what's going on? There's obviously some booking reason why they're doing it. We don't know. We can only speculate, but you have some good ideas on what may be happening, I think.
Yeah.
I was a fan of them moving it up only if they have a bigger play that's going to be a bigger payoff at Hell in the Cell. And I really like what you were just talking about before you hit the record button. So you heard some rumors, maybe.
Yeah, there are some rumors I've heard. I've heard that supposedly that because that they moved this match to Friday, and that I've heard that Lashley and Drew McIntyre will be main eventing Hell in the Cell. That's what I've heard all over Twitter in the last like 24 hours. But I was thinking, why would they take the best WWE superstar on the planet right now off the pay-per-view? And there's only one reason on why. Who hasn't been on the show in a while? Who hasn't shown up? Who haven't we seen? And it's somebody, it's Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate. I was thinking about it. What if they have Drew McIntyre and Lashley main event it, and then Lesnar comes in and involves and gets himself involved? And they love to do that where they ruin main events and no main event could ever end clean, and somebody's going to interrupt in almost 80% of the time. So I was thinking Brock Lesnar will come and he will be interfering, and then we will see a triple threat match at Money in the Bank with Lashley, McIntyre, and Lesnar. And then supposedly it's going to be Lesnar and Lashley at SummerSlam. And then I don't know if you've also heard Cena is supposed to come back. So that he's supposed to have Reigns versus Cena. And that's something, maybe they could even set that up at Hell in the Cell. Wouldn't that be a shock to see Cena and Lesnar show up? I think that would be great.
Yeah, but that'd be crazy, man. I really like where you're going with that. I'm a fan of them moving the match to SmackDown last night only if there's a big payoff, or else I just don't see why they did it. But I really like where you're going. I hope that they're on the same wavelength as you.
Well, yeah, and the Hell in the Cell match, it wasn't like horrible, but like the only thing I feel like that they should have done was made it commercial free, because it's like they started it at like 8:35. And SmackDown ends right at 9 o'clock. So we knew it was going to be like less than 20 minutes, but then they had like 4 or 5 commercial breaks, I feel. And it was like 10, 15 minutes. And then it ended like 5 minutes before the show. But in the match, Ray literally in the beginning, he grabbed the fire extinguisher. Oh my God, I can't speak. The toolbox. And he was just grabbing all these things and he was beating the crap out of Reigns. I really thought at one point he was going to win it, and they were going to do some type of rematch at Hell in the Cell or something. But of course, the big dog, the head of the table, ended up getting his thing. He ended up doing everything he can do because he's the king of SmackDown and Universal Champion. And he ended up choking Rey Mysterio out and winning the match. And of course, still the Universal Champion. I mean, what did you think of the match? Did you like it?
It was better than I thought it was going to be. Let me just preface this. I'm an old man. So I've been watching wrestling on and off for a long time. And in today's WWE, it's just very hard to kind of see where they're going sometimes. That being said, I was a big Rey Mysterio fan 20 plus years ago. At this point in his career, you know, he's there, like you said a little bit earlier, he's there kind of just to help get younger guys over. And I like him in that role. I thought they did a good job at him getting some heat on Reigns early on, but I think they got it right. There's no conceivable way in my mind that they could have booked Rey Mysterio to get over on their biggest superstar that they have right now, Roman Reigns. So I think they got it right, and I like the match. Surprisingly, I really liked the match. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah. And like we were talking about before we started recording and everything, I think like him with Dominic is perfectly fine. Him having the title with Dominic, I thought that was a great story, and him becoming the first ever father and son tag team. That was awesome. And that's just where he's at. He had that amazing moment in Chicago at WrestleMania 22 and winning the world title, but he's just not like the big star that he used to be. We got Roman Reigns, we got so many young talents. I mean, Killian Cross should be the main guy for the next 25 years, or not 25 years, but like the next like 10 years in WWE eventually once he gets called up. And hopefully they don't like Adam Cole. There's just so many other guys that I just feel like, I love Rey Mysterio, the ultimate underdog, but I just absolutely right. But there were some other things that happened on SmackDown other than the Hell in the Cell. The Hell in the Cell main evented, but we also saw Shinsuke Nakamura defeat King Corbin and he took the crown, and now he is, I don't know, is he officially the king of the ring, or is he just the crown? I don't know. Like, because they were talking about it, like I was talking to people on Twitter last night. Why don't they do this every year? Didn't they used to do this every year back in the day and have it like a yearly event?
King of the Ring?
Yeah, because like I feel like Corbin's been king of the ring for 4 years now.
Yeah, they said he won it in 2019, right?
Yeah,
And
well, okay, so like 2 years, but
and
still.
he's the last one to do it, right? To win it.
Yeah, and then before that it was Sheamus, and Sheamus had it. I forgot Sheamus had it for a minute too.
You know, it seems like they used to do it. They debuted it in 1993. The only reason why I know that off the top of my head is because my daughter and I are going back and watching all of the WWE Raws and the pay-per-views in order. And they just did the first King of the Ring that Bret Hart won in 93. And yes, they used to do it every year, but it seems like now they only do it when they have a particular storyline or a gimmick that they could use it to propel a guy. You know what I mean? It seems like they won't do it for a few years. Then they have an idea. They'll put it together to push a guy like they did with Corbin.
Yeah,
Like they did a few years ago with Sheamus. But yes, it used to be a yearly thing.
that's what I thought, because I remember going back, because that's how I started watching wrestling. I was born in 96, but I mean, like when like I was in like the early like when I've been watching wrestling since I was like 5. But I always just remember watching the King of the Ring, because I would always walk around we would get Burger King a lot, and you remember the crowds they would give out.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would put the Burger King crown on and think that was the King of the Ring.
That's the old Jerry Lawler. That's what they used to make fun of Jerry Lawler, call him the Burger King with the crowns.
So, but I mean, yeah, I think that they should bring it back. I mean, think Shinsuke Nakamura, it ignited his career again. We haven't seen him have be this much on TV since he was with AJ Styles a few years at WrestleMania. Xavier Woods, I think, would be a great King of the Ring. Like, I just think that it would just elevate a bunch of guys, and there's so many guys on the roster that they don't use that it's so frustrating that we can go on for hours and hours about guys that they just waste, and it's just not like, it's like, come on, guys, like, really. But I'm happy Shinsuke won, and I really hope that we see it. But I hope that he's done with Corbin now. He's not the king no more. I just hope that he's done with Corbin, and let him move on, and let's see a different type of rivalry, because we'll get into it while we talked about when we get into Hell in the Cell. There's too many rematches that we've already seen. But speaking of matches that were announced on for Hell in the Cell last night, there were many. So we saw Cesaro challenging Seth Rollins to a match at Hell in the Cell. And this is a match I think that deserves to be inside the Hell in the Cell, because think about it, like they fought at WrestleMania. They fought at WrestleMania Backlash too, didn't they again? I can't remember, right? I think they did.
I want to say they fought at Backlash too. I know they fought at definitely WrestleMania, because that's when Cesaro did his record, swing.
Yeah, anyway, but yeah, so I mean, I just feel like this is a rivalry that deserves it. And now that we won't be seeing Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio inside Hell in the Cell on Sunday because they moved it to Friday, the match that will be inside the Hell in the Cell, it's going to be Bayley versus the EST at WWE, Bianca Belair. And this is a match that, like, it's not that I don't hate it, but I just feel like they could have this one, but why didn't they add other ones? I mean, how do you feel about them adding Bianca Belair and Bailey inside Hell in the Cell. You know, I don't know about you, but I've been kind of creeped out by Bailey's like laughing and all the creepy shit she's been doing lately. I don't know
Yeah,
about
not
you.
a fan. Not a fan of her laugh.
No,
Can't
not
have
at all.
it.
It's kind of it just they're I don't know what they're doing, but I feel like they're doing too much Bray Wyatt and like Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss stuff to everybody now. But I mean, how do you feel about this being inside Hell in the Cell now?
Not too crazy about this being in the Hell in a Cell. I think they'll probably end up having a decent, okay match. Nothing great, I don't think. Not because they're not capable of it. I think they're both very talented wrestlers. But I would have rather seen the Raw women's match be in the cage.
Another one we saw at
Honestly.
WrestleMania that I think we've seen this rivalry be going on for a minute now. They faced each other a while ago when Charlotte Flair showed up. But yeah, they faced each other at WrestleMania when the pandemic was going on. That's right, because Charlotte Flair won. That's right. So yeah, this rivalry's been going on for a while. You're right. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that.
I mean, it used to be WrestleMania ended rivalries and kind of things would start fresh, but now it's just like they just carry them on until they beat a dead horse until it's just completely.
And then did you see before we get into everything else? Did you see they're bringing back the WWE Shakeup, the WWE Draft, and everything?
Are they?
Yeah, it's supposed to be like August 30th in September, or I think it's like August 30th and September 3rd or something like that. It's like right after SummerSlam.
Okay.
So we'll have to see, but that's something like, I wish they would do it like they did back in the day. I went back a few years ago and I watched every draft when like Ric Flair and Vince McMahon and Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff. Those things were just so much fun, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So now that we've got everything covered on SmackDown, we saw Otis beat up Angelo Dawkins. I don't know what they're doing with that. They should have just kept him with Mandy Rose. There were a couple other things that happened on SmackDown, but I don't want to sit here and talk about SmackDown because that's not what this is all about. So let's get into the actual pay-per-view. And now let's talk about all the matches and all the headlines that are going to be going on this Sunday at supposed to be the most dangerous structure in WWE history, Hell in the Cell.
And by the way, when did they paint it red?
So on Twitter on Monday, I put a post. I was like, guys, what is going on? What happened to the silver structure?
Right.
Like the silver and I like steel structure. I put a vote. I was like, how many people like the silver and the red structure? I think I got like 25 votes and nobody voted for the red structure. I don't know. I think it was like 2017, 18, because the last one I remember being inside the Hell in the Cell was the one with Cena and Randy Orton when they fought to see who would face Brock Lesnar that year at the Royal Rumble. So that I don't know what they did. I don't know why it's red. I hate it. Like, I feel like I can't see it. Like inside of it, you know what I mean? Like you can't see, like at least like with the silver one, you can get like you could see through it.
Yep.
But like I can't see through the red one.
I couldn't tell at first if it was like bad lighting they had on the cage, and then I'm like, no, that's red.
Yeah,
like,
people thought it was gonna be blue because it was SmackDown. People were mad that it wasn't like blue because it was SmackDown on Fox. I was like, can we just go back to like it being like, come on? And I know I've heard a lot of stories through the documentaries that I've watched about the Hell in the Cell, like the old one being like very dangerous and not steady. But I feel like why I just don't understand. But before we talk about the Red Hell in the Cell too much, do you want to get into the matches and everything that's gonna go down?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
So before we go into every match, I'm gonna name the matches so everybody knows. We have Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. This is one that we didn't talk about yet, and we'll get into in a minute because I'm probably the first one I want to talk about. We also have Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. This is one we saw at WrestleMania rematch. We've seen this one so many times, and why isn't this one in Hell in the Cell? I just feel like they should have 5-6 Hell in the Cell matches. If it's Hell in the Cell, I mean, come on.
Every fight should be on.
Yes. Like, and then you end it. Like, come on. Like, like it's whatever. We also have, we talked about it a little bit earlier, Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. This is another one I think that should be inside the Hell in the Cell. We have Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. Another one. I could just go on and on and on. And then we actually have the two matches that are inside the Hell in the Cell. It's the WWE Championship match, Drew McIntyre versus Lashley. And remember, this is the last time Drew McIntyre can fight Lashley for the title. And if he loses, he will never be able to fight for the WWE title as long as the Almighty is in charge and he's the WWE champion. And then we have the newly added match inside Hell in a Cell. It's the SmackDown Women's Championship match with Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE, versus Bayley, and that weird laugh that she's been doing. I swear she should just join Alexa and they could laugh together. And that one's also inside Hell in a Cell. But before the first match I want to talk about, it is Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler, because this is one we haven't talked about yet. And I just want to get your opinion about how you feel what they're doing with Shayna Baszler, because I know you're a big MMA guy, and I know you like that type of fighting. And Shayna Baszler used to do that. She's best friends with Ronda Rousey and stuff like that. So how do you feel about everything that they've done with Shayna since she's been called up? Because when she was in NXT, she had an amazing run, in my opinion. So, I mean, and how do you feel about what they're doing with Alexa?
Well,
I just asked you a lot right there. My bad, but
no, it's all good. This one is so weird, right? Alexa Bliss, she parted from the Fiend. She's kind of doing her own supernatural thing now. I don't really care for what they're doing with her character. I feel like they could be doing better. On the flip side, Shayna Baszler, she, as you said, she comes from the mixed martial arts world. She actually has some UFC fights under her belt. So she's legit. She is 100%. She is a bad girl. She can really get it done. I like what she's done inside of the WWE ring. I think she's pretty good. I think she's transitioned like a Riddle. She's transitioned over pretty well. She's got the facial. She can obviously get it done inside of the ropes. I don't really care for what they're doing with her storyline now, with the whole, Alexa Bliss, and she's being like a bully. It almost feels like they're trying to. It almost feels like they flip now, where Alexa Bliss just a few weeks ago was an obvious heel, bad person. Now it almost feels like they're trying to get Alexa Bliss to be a baby face because she's getting picked on. How they're booking it with Shana being a bully. So yeah. It's kind of confusing to me. Who am I supposed to be rooting for as a novice fan? Who do I root for here? But
and that's even like a thing before that's just like the types of things like they don't do anymore. Like they don't have these healing faces. Like I feel like they hate each other. Like, do you remember like back like when Randy Orton and Edge and Cena would fight each other? Like they hated each other. Like I could feel it. And even with like NXT, sometimes I feel like those superstars just hate each other, like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. But it's just like, yeah, and exactly, it's like, who are we supposed to be rooting for? And now that you mentioned that about Alexa, I didn't even think about that, about them trying to move her as a baby face. And it's like, I've heard rumors also about Lily supposedly being Liv Morgan, and Lily's going to come to life and it's going to be Liv, and then they're going to go after the tag titles. And it's like, well, that could be maybe interesting, but it's like, so keep going. I just wanted to mention that because it's just irritating that we can't see faces and heels. And yeah.
I heard some of the similar things about Liv Morgan perhaps being Lily. I heard probably the same thing you did, that they do want to bring Lily to life at some point, which, like you said, I think that if it's done right, I think it could be good. If it's done poor, it could be disastrous. Getting back to the actual Hell in a Cell match between Bliss and Baszler, I think Bliss is going to get it done. Maybe Nia Jax comes out there and inadvertently cost Baszler the match to kind of progress that narrative. I don't know, but I think Bliss will get it done.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Baszler just because I feel like she's gonna win. Like I hope that she does. But you're absolutely right. It's probably going to happen. And I don't know if you've listened to a lot of my shows or looked at my predictions. I'm horrible at predictions. So I go on the long shot and there's some matches I get right, but my predictions are horrible. But I'm gonna stick with it. And I'm gonna go with Baszler just because I don't know. And maybe that's exactly what happens, because I would like to see Shayna just move on and have some type of real rivalry with somebody. I'm going to give you something in the Raw Women's Championship match that I think that maybe could happen. But the next match I want to talk about is Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. This is a rivalry that's been going on for a while now. And we've seen it in NXT. We saw it when they first came up. We saw it on SmackDown. We saw it at WrestleMania. We've seen it over and over again. I thought after WrestleMania this was over, but what do you feel about this match?
This is one, like you said, I feel that it should probably be over. These guys have fought countless times. Owens got the big signature win at this year's WrestleMania, and we all
Logan Paul.
Right, with Logan Paul. he got the stunner. but we all thought that was going to be the end of it. It wasn't. These guys are best friends in real life. And honestly, every time they fight, they always have a great match. They have great chemistry together.
They could fight forever. They all day long.
So
But
I'm not disappointed in that regard because I think these guys will have a great match, 4 or 5 star match, no doubt. But that being said, they could go, you would think that they could book it for Sami. That way they're 1-1, but I don't think they will. I think Owens will win because Sami Zayn thrives in that heel role, that in shit heel role. He's so great at it.
He's so good, so good.
He's very underrated.
I love Sami Zayn when he first came up, but once he started doing this heel stuff, and at first I kind of didn't like it, but it's grown on me, and I just love him. He's funny.
Yeah, he's great. He's really, really good in that role. But I think Owens gets it done.
Yeah, so do I. I think there's no way Zayn wins. If he was gonna win, I feel like he was gonna win at WrestleMania. But I have Kevin Owens too. There's no shout in my doubt. The next match I wanted to talk about is another rivalry that's been going on. It's another rematch from WrestleMania. It's Seth Rollins, the Friday Night Messiah, versus Cesaro, the King of Swings. And and I've loved Cesaro, and I loved everything that he's been about, like, since he's came up. I think that he's been very underrated since he's been called up. I don't know if did you see what Mick Foley said about him? Did you see that quote that he said? We'll be able to watch it tomorrow on the Broken Skull session with Stone Cold.
I may have. Refresh my memory. What was the quote?
Literally begged Vince McMahon and pleaded Vince McMahon to push Cesaro. He's like, Vince McMahon, please push Cesaro, and whatever you do, please. We'll be able to watch it on Peacock tomorrow, but it doesn't come out till tomorrow. But it was a quote I saw on Instagram, and I was just like, that's great. And one of the greatest superstars, especially in Hell in the Cell, one of the greatest superstars, Mankind, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack. And it's one of those things where it's like, when these guys are doing it, why aren't you pushing him? I thought he was going to be in the Universal title. I thought he could have won the Universal title at one point. And, I'm not hating what him and Seth are doing, but this is one we talked about before we started recording too. Why isn't this one inside Hell in the Cell? I feel like that they've beat each other so much that another singles match, we're just going to see Cesaro swing them and Seth's going to run away a little bit. So, I mean, who do you think, who do you got in this match, and who do you think, and how do you feel about Seth and Cesaro and everything?
I'm really looking forward to this one too. I think both guys, there's 4 guys on this card, or four wrestlers on this card, or sports entertainers on this card that I think never have a bad day. And I think they are Owens, Zayn, and Cesaro and Rollins. I think those guys are incredible. Cesaro and Rollins are going to have a great match. I think the rivalry is kind of getting a bit stale. I love Rollins. I think he's incredible inside, outside of the ring. He can do it all. I think Cesaro, I think his push is long overdue. I think he deserves everything that he's going to be getting. I don't think his time is quite yet. I think he gets the win over Rollins on Sunday at Hell in the Cell, but I don't know if he's quite at that main event level yet. Something to me seems missing, but he's definitely incredible. I love both of these guys. I just think Cesaro is going to get the edge over my boy Rollins on Sunday.
Yeah, I definitely think Cesaro is going to win. I think that he deserves it. And I think he deserves the push. And like Mick Foley says, eventually I think that he should be I think he should have been an Intercontinental champion and something like that already. But I mean, we'll have to see. But yeah, definitely. I think he's going to beat Rollins because, I love Rollins. But I mean, that's something else. I don't know what he's going to do. And I just think he's got stale. In my opinion, I like the Messiah, but he doesn't have AOP, he doesn't got Murphy, he doesn't have any of his buddies. And it's I don't know. I just feel like Seth needs to do a new gimmick, or they have the Burn It Down song with his Messiah thing. I don't know. So I think Cesaro will definitely win this match, and just hopefully it's over after this, because I want to see something new with them.
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many things, because there's something before, while we talk about this, we have not even talked about what happened earlier this month. What about the release superstars? What about them releasing Aleister Black? What about them releasing Braun Strowman? We saw it. I know that I might get in trouble for this, but we saw Andrade show up on AEW with Vicky Guerrero. Like, there's just so many guys that like have been released in the past like few months that like, you know, like, because I was thinking about like Cesaro and Rollins. This is there was a match we were supposed to see Big E and Aleister Black in a big rivalry, and it just never happened. And you know, those are two guys that I would have loved to seen Cesaro and Rollins fight each other. So I mean, how do you feel like about them releasing Black and everything like that?
Man, that was crazy. Totally unexpected, right? I mean, a few of those names I could justify from a business standpoint, but
Yeah, like Lana, like I'm sure she's gonna go to AEW and stuff like that. And
right, with
I
her
think it
husband.
was like it wasn't. I forgot what the wasn't it Scarlet? I forgot.
Yeah,
What,
Murphy,
yeah,
Scarlett, on
yeah. Oh yeah, Murphy. That's right. Murphy did get a. Yeah, that's right. Murphy did too. Poor
and
Murphy.
then Santana, or there was a girl,
Yeah, Santana, Scarlet, or yeah,
and then as you mentioned, Aleister Black and Braun Strowman were the big ones, right? The
yeah.
surprising ones. To me, man, it just looks like they're they're getting ready to maybe sell the company, because I can't fathom why they would get rid of a guy like Braun Strowman. Now, let me preface: I'm not a big Braun Strowman guy. I don't think he's can cut a great promo. I don't think he's incredible in the ring. However, he is a WWE guy through and through. They built him.
Yeah.
I never thought that they would cut him,
And
especially this early.
he even said he was like, well, he even said a few years ago in a quote that he would never wrestle for another company and that he would retire and take off his boots before he does. So I'm very surprised that like we like if he does go to like AEW or somebody else, I'm surprised. I will be very surprised because he's seemed very like sincere in that quote and that 24 and that documentary he had like over like the past year and everything. He just I don't know. We'll have to see. But I just wanted to mention that because those are some guys that like I just feel like could be in these rivalries. And you know, there's just
Yep.
so many guys that have been wasted, you know. But before, you know, everything like that, the next match I want to get into, it's the Raw Women's Championship match. And you were talking about it a little bit earlier about how this match should be inside Hell in the Cell. It's Rhea Ripley, the Raw Women's Champion, versus the Queen, Charlotte Flair. And, you know, this is one we've seen a little bit. They fought at WrestleMania a few years ago. They fought again. We've seen it like, you know, this rivalry's been going on. And like you said, it should be inside Hell in the Cell. So, I mean, like, how do you feel about this match? And if it is just a singles match and it doesn't change, do you think it will still be a good match?
I do think it'll be a good match because Charlotte Flair, I think, is the best women's wrestler in the WWE. I think she is the best all-around women's wrestler. Um, Now, people can argue and say there's more athletic women. Yes, there is more athletic women, but Charlotte Flair is a complete wrestler. What I mean by that is not only can she work, not only is she athletic, she can cut a promo. She's got the look, she's got the facials, and most importantly, to me, and this is what gets lost in wrestling school and wrestling nowadays, she has the psychology. She understands wrestling. It's not just move, 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 bang, 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 pin, pin, pin. It's I'll grab a headlock and I'm going to sit there and milk this for 30 minutes because I'm a wrestler. So I think they'll have a good match because Charlotte Flair is involved. I love both women. I love Rhea. I think she's got a fantastic future. She's only 24 years old. That's incredible.
That's crazy. She's younger than me. Like I'm 25. Like that's
it's
crazy.
crazy.
Like
It's unbelievable.
they said that a couple years ago, and that because like when they were supposed to fight at Raymond James Stadium before the COVID and before the pandemic and everything, she was talking about it and she was sitting in the stadium and everything. She was like, I'm 22 and this and that. And it's just like, oh my God, like these superstars nowadays are just so athletic, so young. It's crazy. And I love Rhea and I loved everything she did in NXT. I definitely think that maybe she should have had like a little bit, maybe more of like a title run, but everything that she did with Carl Gonzalez after that and like at the end of her NXT run and that match they had at New Year's Eve was amazing and phenomenal. I think this match will be great myself too. I just, like you said, I wish it was going to be inside Hell in the Cell, but I'm going to take Rhea to win this match. So you think Rhea's going to keep the title? I just don't think we should. We Charlotte Flair. I love the Queen, but she doesn't need to win any more titles. Like you know, it's time for Rhea, Bianca, all these great women. But speaking of Bianca Belair and the Women's Championship for SmackDown, let's talk about that match. And this match is actually inside Hell in the Cell. It's the one that was announced on Friday because we saw Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio fight inside Hell in the Cell. And I assume there wasn't just going to be one. They had to at least have two even though we wish there would be 5 or 6. But in this one, I like the rivalry, and I kind of like that, like, you know, this is something like different. At least like we're not seeing Sasha versus Bianca for 6 times in a row. I know it's Bailey, but at least it's something different. I would have maybe liked to see somebody new. But I mean, you know, how do you feel like about this match, and what do you think? Do you think these two women are going to be able to beat the hell out of each other inside Hell in the Cell? Bailey was in it last year with Banks, and I think she didn't do bad. That match was awesome.
Yeah, I think Bianca Belair, I think she's a real talent. I think she's good and she's only gonna get better. Bailey, um, I think maybe her best years are possibly behind her, but she's still got some definite stuff to offer.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good match. I don't know what they're gonna do in this match to make it stand out from the rest of the card or even the other Hell in the Cell match. In my eyes, they have to do something to kind of differentiate this match from everything else on the card, or else it's just going to fall into you're not even going to be able to remember it. Now,
Yeah.
I think that being said, I think Bianca Belair and her name escapes me. We haven't seen her since WrestleMania. She won the title off of Sasha Banks. I
Bianca
think
Belair, the EST.
they had the most incredible match in night one in WrestleMania, in my opinion. So
Yes.
Bianca Belair, she can go, she can get it done.
Yeah.
I think they'll have a good match, but I don't know what they're gonna do to draw us in, to make us really want to watch it, besides just putting a red cage around it, you know? I think Bianca gets it done.
The red cage. I mean, I think so too, and I don't think there's any way for Bailey to win. I really hope like that it's good, and I really hope that it's like a good match. And you know, there's something that just came to my head. I feel like that they're gonna start with this match, and like this is gonna be the first match on the card. I don't know if you noticed it through the last like 4 or 5 years, at least in my opinion. They've always had one to start off the show and one to end it. And then they used to have one in the middle, but now they don't like us that much enough. So I just feel like maybe this match is a match they can start it and they think that can build it. And if that's the case, it better be a good match, because if they, like you said, if it lacklusters and it just is not a good match, nobody's going to remember it. And they're just going to be a waste of a Hell in the Cell when we could have seen Owens and Zayn, Rollins and Cesaro. So Rollins has been in a few now. He's been in WWE for 7-8 years now. Isn't that crazy?
God. It's not. Where's Ziggler and Robert Roode?
Well, that was going to be the next thing before we get into the main event with Lashley and McIntyre. I wanted to get into stuff that's not happening on the card. So, like, where's Sheamus? Where's the United States champion? Where's RK Bro, the best tag team right now on Raw, in my opinion? I think they're hysterical and funny. I love Riddle, bro.
That's the best storyline on Raw, in my opinion.
Literally, that is the best storyline on Raw. And they have so many other things going on Raw that nobody. It's just, but like, I mean, where is Sheamus? Like, I love Sheamus and I'm happy that he's the United States champion, but what are they doing with him? They should have just kept it on Riddle and had him be like, I don't know. What do you think they'll add a couple matches? Like, do you think we'll see Sheamus? Do you think we see Apollo Crews and his new buddy Aziz or whatever the heck, Commander Aziz won on Friday night, but are we going to see him defend the title? Like, I
don't know. Do they have anything announced for the pre-show?
No, that was something that I heard. They're supposedly, this is something else. What about the Raw Women's Championships? We haven't talked about them. We've talked, like, you know, I've heard that Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose will get a shot, but I mean, like, that's something else. Why didn't they just keep Sonya and Mandy together? Like, I just don't even understand why they broke her up just to put her in a 2 blonde bombshell group. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. 2 hot blondes wrestling, right?
Right, that's it.
I mean, yeah. So it's just like, I don't understand, but like, you know, even like the Shinsuke Nakamura and like the Crown or something like that, like we talked about a little bit earlier about like the King of the Ring. Like, I just feel like there's so many other things that they could have done on the card that they're not doing. And like, I meant to ask you, how would you have booked like the card? Like what would you have done differently? And would you have added those matches?
Yeah, I would definitely have all my champions involved. I think it's a big part of it, you know.
And I mean, even if the pay-per-view was 3 hours, I mean, if it's a good pay-per-view, people are gonna watch. So go on.
No doubt. 3 hours. I mean, that's one Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Minus the commercials, which isn't a third of the show. So yeah, man. I mean, if the programming's good, if the content's good, people aren't gonna care. You know, people aren't gonna care how long it is, but in my mind, you got to get the champions on the card. And if you don't have time or room for all of them, I understand. but you need to at least be more selective, in my opinion, with what you're going to book. Like RK Bro, if you can see that that is your hottest storyline on Monday nights, then you should not be working in this industry.
Yeah.
Like that needs to be on the show.
I know,
Like,
and Riddle signed like that multi-year deal, and Vince McMahon loves Riddle and everything. And it's like, and Randy Orton can obviously work with anybody. I mean, he's worked from Cody Rhodes to Riddle to he's worked with so many guys. It's crazy that it just like, I don't understand why they're not on the card. And then we're gonna see on Monday, we're gonna see some random tag team match versus the New Day for the 50th time.
exactly. Yeah.
And
Do
it's
you know
like, come on.
what my daughter showed me yesterday? We were watching some old wrestling, and she saw a comment from Vince McMahon, and he actually said that Riddle reminds him of a young Shawn Michaels. And in my head right away, I'm thinking Riddle's 36, so he's
Riddle's,
not.
wait, Riddle's 36?
He's
I
36.
did not know that.
Right.
I thought he was like 28.
No, he's an older guy because he was fighting in mixed martial arts professionally. I remember covering him 6-7 years ago in MMA.
Crazy.
So it's like
Damn.
he does Vince mean is it just purely on the way he looks, or because he's not even a young man? He's great in the ring, but I just thought that was funny.
No, I mean, yeah, and that's like, and I love like Riddle, and I think he's like great on the mic, and he's obviously like the stoner that like everybody. I mean, if you don't, you should know like what he is. Like, come on, let's be real. Like he offered, Rob Van Dam, even him and Rob Van Dam were on the bump the week of WrestleMania. That was like the greatest 15 minutes of my life. That was awesome. But like exactly, there's just so many things that I just feel like that they could have done on the card. We could have seen even Rey Mysterio and Dominic put the titles on the line. That's another one, even Ray, you got beat up inside Hell in the Cell, get your butt back up and dust it off, underdog, and let's see the titles on the line. There's just so many matches that like, we could see. But before we continuously talk about all the matches that we could see, we have the last match, the main event of the card. It's for the WWE Championship. And, they haven't announced it as the main event, but I'm just going to assume because there's one big thing that we're going to talk about after we give our predictions that I think is going to happen that it's going to be surprising, but I mean, it could. And, yeah. So in this match, it's Lashley versus McIntyre. And remember, if Drew McIntyre loses, he will never be able to fight for the WWE title versus the Almighty again. So do you think they're going to have Drew win it? Do you think Lashley's going to keep it? I mean, have you liked Lashley's run? Lashley's been in the WWE. He went to UFC. He did all that and everything. What do you think about Lashley? And how do you feel about this match?
Well, first, let me just preface because I was wrong. I stand corrected. Riddle's 35. So I'm sorry, trying to make him a little older than he is.
Hopefully Riddle don't kill us.
Right. Please. I don't need to, he's really talented. Yeah. But I like Lashley's run. I like this run in the WWE that he's had right now as a champion. I think it's solid. I like MVP as his mouthpiece because
yes,
although Lashley
MVP honestly I don't know why. I don't know if everybody remembers the Hurt Business that he just broke up like a month. Was it like 4 or 5 months ago? They were the greatest thing on Raw for a minute. Like him, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander. I thought with him and MVP, they were just awesome with the mice piece. So now that you mentioned that, just go on about MVP because I loved when he was when he was back in the day and he would come out of the clock and everything. That was awesome with MVP. But he's done great as the mouthpiece, and I'm happy about it. So, go on. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, so I like him in this role as a mouthpiece because obviously, he's getting a little bit up there in age now. So this role suits him really well. I think he could even be the guy that potentially takes Heyman's getting up there. So when Heyman steps away, I could even see MVP kind of taking Heyman's role, like as the main kind of mouthpiece there from then on. But let me just talk a minute about McIntyre. Here's a guy that has been in the WWE way back when they signed him when he was a young man. He had his
back in the day. He was supposed to be the chosen one.
Yep.
Remember back the chosen one, the Intercontinental Champion. He wrestled at WrestleMania 26. Did you also know he was supposed to face Undertaker at WrestleMania?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, He was supposed to face Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think it was actually WrestleMania 26. If I'm
Really?
not mistaken, I think it was supposed to be him instead of him versus Shawn Michaels. I could be wrong. It was either 26 or 27, but he
Wow.
was supposed to face Undertaker, but because McIntyre felt like he was just too young and everything, like he even said it like in the Broken Skull session and all the documentaries that they had when he did the title run, because he literally owned the COVID era and the pandemic era of WWE. And they said that he was supposed to face Undertaker, and I was just shocked. So like
Yes.
knowing that and like seeing how far he's come, because he left and then he went to NXT and destroyed NXT. And then he came up with Ziggler and that tag team. And, I didn't mind that for a minute, but not now that he's on the singles run, now that you like, just go on more about McIntyre.
Yeah.
He's
When
awesome.
he first got brought in, he was this really skinny guy, kind of talked funny, and he was okay, but there was nothing. And then they didn't really have, he went from gimmick to gimmick to gimmick. You remember he did the
BMB,
three-man
man,
band.
band.
He did the three-man band with I got kids, Heath
He's Slater. He's Slater and Jinder
Slater,
Mahal.
and Jinder Mahal. Yeah, the three-man band, which that was basically a comedy act, right?
Yeah, oh, so bad.
Then he gets released again, goes to TNA,
Yeah,
completely
that's right. That's where he went. Yeah, okay.
reinvents himself as this badass character,
With like
right?
all that hair and stuff. Where the hell did all that hair come from? Because you remember when he came in and the first
Oh,
time he was all
even
oily and shit. I was just like, damn.
he reinvents himself as Drew Galloway, which
Yeah.
is his birth name, and becomes, he really hits the weights hard and comes back looking like a different man. And now he's boom, he's on this incredible run. I like him. I think he is a professional wrestler. That's all he's ever wanted to be. He looks the part now, and I just don't see him getting over Bobby Lashley. Now, I hope McIntyre wins the belt, because I feel like you mentioned how he owned the COVID era. And I think he was kind of cheated, because he beat Lesnar. Then he only has the belt for what, a month or two, and then he loses it. Then
Yeah.
he wins it back. Then he drops it again. It's like, I feel like he's never had his proper run.
Yeah.
So in that standpoint, I
He
hope
hasn't had a run like Roman Reigns. Like, and that's the type of run that he deserves. Because Roman Reigns, when did Roman Reigns win the title? I forgot. He's been the champion for so long.
11 years ago.
I feel that's what I feel like. He's gotten to the point like Walter.
Yeah.
Oh my god, man. But yeah, not like, yeah, you're absolutely right with that, because he hasn't. And then he lost it to Bobby Lashley, and now Lashley's had it. And yeah, like they said, like he did own it, but you're absolutely right. You gave some good points, man.
I hope they give him the run he deserves, but I just don't see Lashley losing the belt.
No,
What do you
either,
think?
either do I. I don't see Lashley losing, and I don't even, I want to see this match be good. I really, really do. I really do. I want to see it go 30 minutes, beat the hell out of each other. Let's have it be one of the best let's have it be the third longest match in Hell in the Cell history. But I feel like it won't, because we haven't seen those matches since, like I said, I went back and watched the Bad Blood one in 2003 or 4. I forgot what year that was. But, there's something that like I want to mention, because I do think Lashley is going to win, but I think Lashley is going to win by disqualification.
Really?
And I'm going to say that because I don't know if you've noticed, but the last 3 or 4 years, I'm one of those people that I've went back and watched every pay-per-view, and I've watched the matches. I've watched every Hell in a Cell matches, Elimination Chamber, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. I've watched all of them, and I've noticed a pattern over the last like 4 or 5 years, from the match with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, from the match with Roman, I think Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. There's been so many matches over the last few years inside Hell in the Cell that always have some type of person come out and try to break open the cage. And they say this cage is unbreakable, but for some reason, somebody always breaks in. And, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I didn't want to say like it all the way. I think, we haven't seen him in a minute, and it's Brock Lesnar. We have not seen this man in a minute. The biggest party of the summer is coming up. The fans are returning. Stephanie McMahon keeps saying we're seeing all these surprises, and we're going to have like the biggest thing for SummerSlam, and it's supposed to be awesome. And they're just waiting for all the fans to return. And, I just feel like we're going to see Lesnar somehow get involved, and all of a sudden he's going to come out and, I don't know if he's going to be a face or a heel, But I think that he's going to come out and he's going to interrupt, and Lashley's going to keep the title by disqualification. And then we're going to see a triple threat match at Money in the Bank with the three of them. I don't know who would win that match, but then I think that Drew McIntyre is going to go off to do something else at SummerSlam. And we're going to see Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. And then there's also been rumors of Roman Reigns versus John Cena. And, we're not seeing Roman Reigns on the card because he fought on Friday. So that was something else, what if this match gets disqualified and then they, for some reason, want Roman Reigns to come out and John Cena's music hits or something like that? You don't know. I mean, WWE is crazy and they change things daily, and Vince McMahon just, he does whatever. So I think that's what's going to happen in the match. I really hope not. I want to see them beat the hell out of each other and they're done clean, but I just have a feeling that's what's going to happen. And it just, that's something that Vince McMahon wants ratings. That's the only reason why that match was on Friday, because he only wanted ratings and he was trying to compete with AEW. And it's funny because I don't know if did you watch the cage match with Jake Hager and Warlord last night?
Yes,
I don't know how I'm not a big UFC guy, but I feel like that wasn't real. That was like a bunch of guys just rolling around, and like I feel like that wasn't like,
no, that was not real. That was terrible.
Yeah, that was like terrible. So I mean,
but
that's what I think's gonna happen in that match. And like I don't know, but yeah. So
that Hager versus Wardlow match, that was two pro wrestlers. Now Hager he is a legit Bellator fighter. That's true. He's 4-5-0. He's not great, but he's good. But what we saw last night in that match was two professional wrestlers play fighting. That was not a real fight.
Yeah, I got bored at one point. I was looking at my phone. I'm like, this is just not exciting. I thought it was gonna be better, but I feel like definitely like the Hell in the Cell match was definitely a little bit better. But I just would have rather seen it on Sunday. So that's what I think. That's how I think Hell in the Cell is gonna end. I think somehow interference and Lesnar either get like Lesnar ends it, or maybe we see Cena show up. He's been saying he wants to come back for SummerSlam and everything. And maybe they do wait till Money in the Bank. But I just want to see Cena back, man. He was the guy that I watched growing up. He was my guy. Like I had the chain. I dressed up as him. I had that armbands. I just miss Cena. So, I mean, how do you feel like I know you said like Lashley, like you think Lashley's going to win, but how do you feel about that? Do you think Lesnar can come back? Do you think they start the Roman Cena?
That'd be great if Lesnar came back. I think that's, we talk about almost weekly about how Raw just isn't the show that it used to be. But, you imagine if Lesnar comes back, what that can do, how that could reinvigorate everybody, how it could give it life.
Especially if he comes back as a face, I would bring him back as a face. You don't let Paul Heyman near him, and you let him let him talk and let him be the guy that he used to be. You might I went back when I was watching like the old WrestleManias and stuff. When he talked on the mic, he wasn't horrible.
Right.
I mean, he was kind of funny. Like he was like, and I feel like I've never seen him because I've been watching him since he came back versus Cena is like when I remember, because I was so young back at like WrestleMania 20. I've seen that match with Goldberg and stuff, horrible. But I mean, I remember when he came back versus Cena, and he's always had Paul Heyman by his side. So it's like I just want to see him come back and do something different. I mean, he's been gone since isn't he been gone since WrestleMania versus Drew?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, right? Like since 2020, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I definitely think like bring him back as a different type of character. I mean, I just, especially, there is somebody else. What about Becky?
Yeah, I did you hear the rumors about her? I saw.
No, I did not. I didn't. That's why I meant to ask you, because I was going to ask you about that, about the Raw Women's Championship, because that's who I thought. I said it earlier. I thought maybe we'd see Becky. I forgot to mention it. But I mean, I think Becky could definitely maybe get involved with that Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair match, maybe.
Yes, that's something that could definitely happen. Now that you mention it, I saw some tweets last night that Becky Lynch was confirmed, that people confirmed this report too, multiple people, that she was at the WWE training center preparing for her comeback. So
the Performance Center.
Yes. So it sounds like it could be soon. So that'd be perfect. Do we know, is this taking place in the Thunderdome? Is there going to be fans for Hell in the Cell?
Not Hell in the Cell. Money in the Bank is the first one back with fans, because they go back on the first one is on SmackDown the Friday before Money in the Bank. And it's supposed to be Edge's, Bray Wyatt's, The Fiend, and Sasha Banks return.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So, and I was thinking about what if she shows up at Money in the Bank and she wins the briefcase? She had to give up her title in the briefcase. What if she wins the briefcase back and she can get her title back because she never lost it? She had to give it up to have a beautiful baby with Seth Rollins.
See,
Lucky
that's
Seth
that's
Rollins.
the that's the way to book it right there.
That
So
that that
you
would
just
be
did their work
awesome.
for them.
Especially like, we didn't even mention Asuka. Like Asuka was the one that took it from her. And Asuka, we haven't seen Asuka. She was great. And then, like, we could go on and on about all these superstars. Maybe we'll just have to do a show where we just rant about everybody that is
There you
bad
go.
and good.
Do you watch Impact and AEW and all that, or is it just
I
WWE?
watch AEW. I watch Impact a little bit. I watch like WWE the most. The only one I definitely don't watch is New Japan and stuff and like
I don't either.
UFC. So, but I definitely watch like AEW. Like I love Kenny Omega. I love like John Moxley. I love like that type of stuff. There are sometimes I don't like AEW, like the cage match and stuff last night. But I definitely think like the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle are amazing. I think like that rivalry is awesome.
Yeah.
I know you watch a lot of like other like wrestlings and stuff, right? Like I know I kind of like forgot to mention, I kind of like forgot to like introduce you and like
Oh, it's
ask
all
you like
good.
the questions and stuff like that. So like before we go and everything, because I would love to have you on the show again. I think this
For
was so
sure.
much fun. What was your favorite like superstars growing up like then and then now? And like how did you start watching wrestling?
Well, as I said earlier, I'm an old man, so I started watching wrestling at 19. What to say, like the first thing I could really remember is like 1989. It was a Saturday night's main event, and it was Mr. Perfect
Mr.
and Kurt Hennig, and that's the first time I ever watched it. And I was pretty much hooked right away. I mean, all through the 90s, I watched it religiously. Of course, I went back when I was younger, found all the early, through all through the 80s, I got caught up on. But I stopped, I watched it all the way through the 90s, all through the Monday Night Wars and everything. And I stopped watching maybe around 2003. Then I came back a couple of years later, watched it for a few more years. Then I went away, and now I'm back. So, guys that I watched growing up that I really loved, I loved Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. He was one of my all-time favorites. Loved the Four Horsemen growing up. Uh, as I was getting older, I loved what DX did in the Attitude Era. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who
That's what I remember. I would go to school and say, "Suck it."
oh yeah. And then we didn't mention too that Stone Cold Steve Austin, when we were talking about the King of the Ring, and that's where he actually got
I got Stone Cold.
there he is. That's the King of the Ring when he won. That's when he cut that promo. The 316 promo was
That's right. That's right. Yeah, true.
People
And
forget
it seemed
about
like that's something like that. Didn't that like boost his career? Because I was too young at that point. But like, didn't that like boost his career to the point where like it elevated it to where the point where he became the
Yeah.
rattlesnake?
He was really before that. He was the ringmaster. They
Yeah,
threw the belt on him, the $1 million championship. He was kind of floundering because they weren't letting him be himself. And then, Jake Roberts was doing this whole gimmick where he was preaching from the Bible at the time, and Jake Roberts fought Stone Cold in the King of the Ring finale, and then after he beat him, he went and did an interview with Doc Hendricks, Michael P.S. Hayes, and that's when he cut that promo. He was like, "You talk about your Philippines and this." He's like, "Well, Austin 316 says I has whipped your ass." And then the very next line, Trent, was another one of his things, because that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Both of those were born that night. And then yes,
awesome.
Boom, off to the moon, man. He
That's
was
awesome.
just
See, I've watched did you watch his biography? Like,
oh
have
yeah,
you watched the biographies? What about like the Most Wanted Treasure and stuff like that? I don't know about you, but I love those shows. I'm so happy that they were able to do the Most Wanted Treasure show, especially because like the little obsession collectibles I have with the pops. I thought I was crazy. But when I see people have like real Sockos and real Undertaker memorabilia and Mankind and stuff, it's crazy. Like, where do these people get this type of stuff? So it just, there's just, I love that type of stuff. And, it's crazy that you've been watching wrestling. Like, I remember my first one that I remember was the Royal Rumble with John Cena and Batista in 2005. That was the first time I ever remember watching wrestling. I was on my bunk bed in my room, and me and my friend were wrestling, and he wanted Batista to win, and I wanted Cena. And when they did that, and when like Vince McMahon, like, didn't he like tear his Achilles or something like that when he got ran in the ring and stuff like that?
think he tore both of his hamstrings or something.
It was
Right?
his hamstrings or his Achilles or
And he
something
was
like
sitting
that.
down.
And he was all mad. But when that was going on, I just remember I jumped off my bunk bed onto my friend and threw him off the bed and was like, I win the Royal Rumble.
That's awesome.
I was just like, oh my God. But that was like my first memory of watching wrestling. And like I said, John Cena is my guy. And he always has been. And I've watched it like ever since then. Like I remember like growing up watching it. I went back and watched it all. Like definitely. Like I went back and watched weekly Raws. I definitely would like to do that.
That's
But
fun.
I would love to go and do that. I think I should definitely. But I mean, before we talk about it and we get into it and we keep going on and on, I just want to say thank you for joining me on this Hell in the Cell pre-show and doing a pre-show analysis, then joining me and talking to me about everything wrestling and everything UFC, AEW, Impact. You know, how did you feel? Like, do you think it went good?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. It was fun. Thanks for having me on. Anytime. I'll if I have the
Where
time, I'll be more than happy to.
Heck yeah. Where can everybody find you on Twitter, Instagram? Where let everybody know Tino time, Tino Nation, where can they find you?
I try to keep it simple. All my social media is at Chitownhussle. Hustle spelled Hussle. So Chitownhussle on all social media. And I recently got back into covering mixed martial arts. So you could find my work at Fansided MMA. And that's the only place I'm contributing right now. But I'm sure in the next couple weeks I'll be adding a few more sites. But that's it for now.
Hey, everybody go check him out. He's got some great content. And this is your boy Tino. Go follow me at Tino Time 1996, Tino Time Wrestling, Tino Time 10 on Instagram. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And until Monday, when your boy Tino does a post-show analysis about everything that went down at Hell in the Cell, the most dangerous structure in WWE history. This is your boy Tino and Mike signing out.